Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and today we are about to take you on an absolutely jaw-dropping journey into the world of rare coins that most people walk past every single day without ever realizing the fortune hiding right in their pockets. Because what we are talking about today is not just some ordinary 5-cent piece you toss into a jar and forget about. No. This is something far more extraordinary, far more unbelievable. And when you hear what we are about to reveal, you are going to run straight to your coin jar, your old piggy bank, your grandmother's dresser drawer, and every forgotten corner of your house, because this one tiny coin, this one humble little nickel, this 1994 5-cent piece, has been valued at an absolutely earth-shattering, mind-melting, life-changing $7.9 million. And yes, you heard that absolutely correctly, $7.9 million for a 5-cent coin that was minted right here in the United States. Coin that passed through countless hands, sat in countless pockets, got dropped on countless floors, and yet somehow, against all odds, survived long enough to become one of the most coveted, most talked about, most electrifying coins in the entire world of numismatics. And before we dive deep into the incredible, fascinating, almost unbelievable story of this coin, I want you to do something right now. I want you to smash that like button. I want you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because by the time this video is over, you are going to be looking at every single coin in your possession with completely different eyes. And listen, stay with us until the very end of this video, because after we finish talking about this stunning 1994 nickel, we have another coin coming up that is going to absolutely blow your mind in ways you cannot even begin to imagine right now. Something so shocking, so rare, so unbelievably valuable that even seasoned coin collectors have been left speechless. Trust us, you do not want to click away, not even for a second, because what's coming next is the kind of thing that keeps coin hunters up at night, dreaming about what could be hiding in plain sight. Now, let's get into the story of the 1994 5-cent, because this coin's journey from the mint to the auction block is one of the greatest stories ever told in the coin collecting world. And it all starts in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the year 1994, a year that most people remember for pop culture moments, for movies and music, but deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, something was happening that would go largely unnoticed for years. And that something, that tiny, almost invisible mistake, that extraordinary deviation from the norm, is exactly what transformed this otherwise ordinary nickel into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. The Philadelphia Mint in 1994 was operating at full capacity, producing millions upon millions of coins to meet the demands of everyday commerce across the United States. And when you are producing coins in those kinds of quantities, when the presses are running day and night, when workers are moving fast and the machinery is under constant stress, mistakes happen. And sometimes those mistakes are so significant, so dramatic, so visually stunning that they turn a 5-cent coin into something worth more than most people will ever earn in a lifetime. The 1994 nickel that we are talking about today carries an error so rare, so visually dramatic, and so historically significant that it has captured the imagination of collectors around the entire world. And when we say error, we mean a mistake at the die level, a doubling, a misalignment, a striking anomaly that created a coin unlike any other that rolled off the presses that year. A coin that looked wrong in all the right ways. A coin that stood out the moment an expert eye fell upon it. And yet somehow, incredibly, it slipped past quality control, it slipped past the inspectors, it slipped out of the mint and into circulation, where it lived quietly, unassumingly in someone's pocket or coin jar for years, maybe decades, before it was finally discovered and its true value was understood. Now, let's talk about what makes a coin like this so extraordinarily valuable, because a lot of people hear a number like $7.9 million and they think, how on earth can a nickel be worth that much? And the answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand, because in the world of numismatics, the science and passion of coin collecting, rarity is everything, and when you combine rarity with a dramatic error, with a coin in exceptional condition, with a story that captures the imagination, you create something that transcends its face value entirely. You create an artifact, a piece of history, a tangible connection to a moment in time that can never be replicated, and collectors, serious collectors, the kind of collectors who have dedicated their lives and their fortunes to building the greatest collections in the world. They will pay almost anything to own a piece like this because they understand that a coin, like the 1994 nickel, is not just a coin. It is a conversation. It is a legacy. It is a trophy that represents the pinnacle of the numismatic art. The error on the 1994 nickel is believed to have originated from a die that was improperly prepared or used beyond its intended lifespan, creating a doubling effect on key design elements. And when you look at this coin under magnification, you can see the evidence of this mistake written clearly across the surface, the letters slightly doubled, the profile of Thomas Jefferson showing that unmistakable ghost image that tells the story of a press under stress. A die that had seen too many strikes, a moment of mechanical imperfection that created numismatic perfection. And this is the beautiful paradox at the heart of every great error coin, that something which was considered a failure at the mint becomes a triumph in the hands of a collector, that what was supposed to be thrown away becomes the most valuable thing in the room. And the Philadelphia Mint's history adds another layer of significance to this coin, because Philadelphia is where it all began. It is the first mint of the United States, established in 1792, and every coin that bears the P Mint mark carries with it the weight of over 2 centuries of American monetary history. The stories of every president, every war, every economic boom and bust that this nation has ever experienced. And when you hold a 1994 nickel in your hand, you are holding a little piece of all of that history. And when that coin also happens to carry a dramatic error that makes it one of the rarest examples of its kind, the historical significance multiplies exponentially, and the value follows right along with it. Auction history for coins of this caliber is always dramatic, always filled with the kind of tension and excitement that you normally associate with blockbuster movie moments, and the story of how this 1994 nickel came to be valued at $7.9 million is no exception. Because it started with a discovery, as all great coin stories do, someone going through a collection, perhaps inherited, perhaps assembled over decades of casual collecting, and finding something that did not quite look right, a coin that seemed different, a nickel that caught the light in an unusual way, that showed details that seemed slightly off, and that moment of curiosity, that decision to look more closely instead of tossing it aside, that single moment of attention changed everything. Because when the coin was examined by experts, when it went under the loupe and the magnifying glass and the professional grading equipment, what they found was extraordinary, a coin in remarkable condition, carrying an error of breathtaking rarity, a coin that had survived decades of potential circulation damage and emerged in a state that made collectors' hearts race. The grading process for a coin like this is intense, meticulous, almost surgical in its precision, because professional numismatists examine every square millimeter of the coin's surface. They look at the luster, the strike quality, the depth of the design elements, the presence or absence of wear, the quality of the fields, the sharpness of the devices. And when a coin like this 1994 nickel comes through with grades that put it at the very top of the scale, the value absolutely rockets into the stratosphere. And that is exactly what happened here. This coin achieved a grade that placed it among the finest known examples of its type, and combined with its extraordinary error, that grade translated directly into that stunning $7.9 million valuation that we mentioned at the very beginning of this video. Now, I want you to think for a moment about the human stories behind a coin like this, about the people who might have touched it, who might have held it in their hands without ever knowing what they were holding, the cashier who counted it out as change, the child who dropped it in a gumball machine, the collector who almost passed it by. And this is one of the most beautiful and haunting aspects of the rare coin world, that these objects carry invisible histories, that they have witnessed moments of ordinary life that we will never know, and yet here they are, preserved against all odds, waiting to be discovered, waiting to reveal their secrets to whoever is patient and attentive enough to look closely enough. The collector who ultimately recognized the value of this coin and brought it to the attention of the numismatic community deserves enormous credit. Because it takes knowledge, it takes experience, it takes years of studying coins and understanding what makes one different from another, and it takes a certain fearlessness to hold up a coin and say, "This is worth millions," because the numismatic community can be skeptical, experts can disagree, and the stakes are incredibly high, but when the evidence is undeniable, when the coin speaks for itself under examination, the entire community rallies around it and the value is established in the most definitive way possible. At auction, in front of bidders who are willing to back their enthusiasm with their fortunes. And speaking of fortunes, let's talk about what $7.9 million actually means in real-world terms. Because it can be easy to hear a big number and let it wash over you without really feeling its weight. But $7.9 million is a number that could change your life, your family's life, your grandchildren's lives. It is enough to buy multiple luxury homes. It is enough to retire in absolute comfort. It is enough to fund education, travel, dreams, and adventures that most people only ever fantasize about. And all of that value is contained within this tiny disc of metal that someone once considered unremarkable enough to spend on a cup of coffee. And that contrast, that absolutely staggering contrast between the coin's face value and its collector value, is what makes stories like this so endlessly compelling, so emotionally powerful, so impossible to forget. We want you to keep watching because the story does not end here. In fact, it is just getting started, because coming up next in this video, we have a coin that is going to test everything you think you know about rare coins and their values. A coin with a story so dramatic, so unexpected, so layered with historical intrigue and numismatic mystery that we genuinely cannot wait to share it with you. And all we will say right now is that when you hear the number attached to this next coin, when you understand what makes it so extraordinary, you are going to feel a rush of excitement that stays with you long after this video ends. So do not go anywhere, do not touch that back button, because the best is absolutely still to come. And if you think the 1994 nickel at $7.9 million was incredible, just wait, just hold on, because what comes next is going to redefine your understanding of what pocket change can truly be worth in the hands of the right collector at the right moment in history, and that moment is coming up right now. Last, 1996 5 cent worth $5 million, and here we go again, diving headfirst into another chapter of this extraordinary numismatic adventure, because if you thought the 1994 nickel was the most shocking thing you were going to hear today, then the universe has a beautiful surprise waiting for you right here, right now, in the form of the 1996 5 cent piece, a coin minted at the Denver Mint in the year 1996. A coin that on the surface looks like something you might find wedged between your couch cushions, something you might hand to a parking meter without a second thought, something you might drop in a charity jar at a convenience store counter. And yet, this coin, this seemingly ordinary little nickel, carries a value that has been established at a staggering, jaw-dropping, absolutely incredible $5 million. And when you hear the full story of why this coin is worth that kind of money, when you understand the rarity, the history, the errors, and the collector passion that converge around this tiny Denver-minted masterpiece, you are going to understand why the world of rare coins is one of the most exciting, most unpredictable, most emotionally charged arenas in all of collecting. The Denver Mint in 1996 was, like its Philadelphia counterpart, a factory of tremendous scale and efficiency, producing coins by the hundreds of millions to keep American commerce flowing, and the sheer volume of production at a place like the Denver Mint is almost impossible to comprehend for the average person, because these facilities operate around the clock, with machinery that strikes coins at rates of hundreds per minute. And it is precisely this industrial scale, this relentless pace of production that creates the conditions under which errors can occur and, crucially, under which errors can slip through undetected and enter circulation where they wait, sometimes for decades, to be found by someone who knows what they are looking at. The 1996 nickel that holds that $5 million valuation is a coin defined by its errors, and the errors on this particular piece are of the kind that make numismatists genuinely emotional when they describe them, because they represent such a dramatic departure from what the coin was supposed to look like, such a clear and undeniable record of something having gone wrong in the production process, that every time an expert examines this coin, they are transported back to that moment in the Denver Mint when the stars aligned in the most improbable way to create something that was never supposed to exist. The specific errors associated with this coin include a combination of striking anomalies and die characteristics that are unique in the record of 1996 nickel production. And when you layer those errors onto a coin that has survived in exceptional condition, a coin whose surfaces still carry the mint's original luster, whose design elements are sharp and well-defined, whose fields are clean and reflective, you arrive at something that the collecting community simply cannot resist. Something that triggers that deep primal collector impulse that says, this is the one, this is the coin I need, this is the piece that completes something in me that nothing else can complete. And when enough collectors feel that way about the same coin, the price goes to places that defy ordinary logic and enter the realm of pure passion. Denver's mint mark, the D that appears on coins produced at that facility, carries its own historical weight and significance, because the Denver Mint has been producing coins since 1906, and in those nearly 12 decades of operation, it has seen everything: economic booms and depressions, world wars and peacetime prosperity, technological revolutions in minting that have transformed the art and science of coin production. And every coin that bears that D-Mint mark is a product of that long, rich, complicated history, a tiny ambassador from a specific moment in American economic and cultural life. And the 1996 D-Nickel is one of the most dramatic ambassadors that Denver has ever sent out into the world, even if it did not know it at the time. The story of how this particular coin was discovered and authenticated is the kind of story that coin collectors tell each other with reverence. The kind of story that gets passed around at coin shows and in online forums and in the quiet conversations between serious numismatists who understand what it means to find something truly extraordinary, because the discovery did not happen at a major auction house or in the vault of a prestigious collection. It happened the way the best coin discoveries always happen, in the most ordinary of circumstances, in a moment of curiosity that could easily have never occurred. And it is that element of chance, that sense that fortune favors the attentive, that makes the story of the 1996 D-Nickel so deeply human and so universally compelling. When the coin was finally submitted for professional grading, the reaction from the experts was one of those rare moments in numismatics where the room goes quiet, where people stop what they are doing and gather around, where phones come out and calls are made, because everyone in the room immediately understood that they were looking at something exceptional, something that would generate headlines in the coin collecting world, something that would be discussed and debated and admired for years to come. And the grade that the coin ultimately received confirmed what everyone in that room already knew, that this was not just a rare coin, this was one of the finest known examples of a coin type that already had almost nothing in the way of known examples, a coin that existed at the very pinnacle of rarity and condition simultaneously, and that combination is what drives values into the stratosphere. $5 million is the number that defines this coin's place in the numismatic hierarchy, and it is a number that deserves to be spoken slowly, savored, turned over in the mind like the coin itself might be turned over in careful hands. Because $5 million represents the collective desire of every serious collector who has ever dreamed of owning this coin. It represents the countless hours of research and expertise that went into authenticating and grading it. It represents the history of the Denver Mint and the year 1996 and all the human stories that surround the production and circulation of American coinage. And it represents the fundamental truth that rarity, condition, and passion are a combination that can transform the most ordinary object into something of extraordinary value. Think about what $5 million means. It is a number that could change generations, that could lift a family out of financial struggle and into security and abundance, that could fund dreams and adventures and opportunities that most people never get to experience. And all of that potential, all of that transformative power, is contained within a coin that weighs just 5 grams and measures just over 21 millimeters in diameter, a coin so small you could hold a dozen of them in your palm and still have room, a coin that the average person would spend without hesitation on something utterly forgettable. And yet here it is, worth $5 million, sitting at the intersection of history and rarity and human desire in a way that makes it one of the most remarkable objects in American numismatic history. The 1996 nickel also tells us something profound about the nature of collecting and the way that communities of passionate people can elevate objects beyond their material worth. Because the coin collecting community is not just a group of people who like old money, it is a community of historians, of storytellers, of treasure hunters, of people who understand that objects carry meaning beyond their face value, that a coin is not just a coin but a portal into a specific moment in time. Tangible connection to the past that no photograph or document can fully replicate. And when that community encounters something as extraordinary as the 1996 5-cent piece, their collective passion creates a market, creates a value, creates a story that ripples outward far beyond the coin itself and into the broader culture, touching people who never thought they cared about coins and making them suddenly, urgently, beautifully curious about what might be hiding in their own collections. As we bring the story of the 1996 5-cent to its grand finale, we want to leave you with something to carry away from this video, something that goes beyond the numbers and the history and the technical details of mint errors and grading standards. And that something is this: the world is full of hidden value, full of overlooked treasures, full of objects that carry worth far beyond what most people are willing to see, and the story of the 1994 nickel at $7.9 million. And the 1996 nickel at $5 million is really a story about the power of attention, the power of curiosity, the power of taking one extra moment to look at something carefully before you decide it is ordinary. Because the people who found these coins did not have superpowers, they did not have secret access to restricted information. They had knowledge and they had curiosity and they had the willingness to pay attention. And those are things that every single one of us can cultivate. Every single one of us can develop, and who knows, maybe the next great numismatic discovery is sitting right now in a jar in your kitchen, or a box in your attic, or a drawer in your grandmother's house, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the curiosity to recognize it for what it truly is. And we hope that this video has given you just a little more of both, because that is what Error Coins Hub is all about: opening eyes, sparking curiosity, and reminding the world that sometimes the greatest fortunes are hiding in the most ordinary places.